What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the week 4 edition of the late night live stream. I'm Ben Hover, joined by Joey Carey, and today we are here to talk about everything you need to know for the week 4 main slate on DraftKings. Joey, this is shaping up to be a really interesting slate, and I think I'm the most excited that I've been since week 1 to get into this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like a really good tournament slate. I think there is a ton of bad chalk out there that we can fade and, potentially win all of the money tomorrow. So I'm pretty excited for this slate as well.
Let's get right into it, man, because there's a lot to cover, and we could just switch right over to the quarterback position, right, and talk about whether or not we're going to pay up or we're going to pay down, because I think that's the big question. Obviously, the highest ceiling that you're going to find in this slate is right there at the top, 8K and above, with Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. These are the top 3 plays, I think, on the slate from a floor ceiling perspective, and Josh definitely stands out at 8,400.
Yeah, I think that for cash games specifically, you're probably choosing one of Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, or Marcus Mariota as the paydown option. Personally, I prefer to go to Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen in this highest total game of the entire slate going up against the banged up Ravens secondary with one of the best, if not the best, floor ceiling combo out of every single quarterback in the entire NFL. I think even at 8,400, Josh Allen is worth it in cash games, and his expectation is pretty much 30 DK points, which at 8,400, you'll take that all day, every day. So for cash games specifically, I think right now as it stands at 10:03 p.m., I'm leaning Josh Allen, but maybe that'll change come 1 o'clock tomorrow.
To me, I mean, I don't want to invalidate the play of Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson because they've both been very incredible. But at the point we're at now, where the price discrepancy between, say, Allen and Jalen Hurts is only 200, I think it's well worth it to find your way up to Allen. Hurts is playing amazing, but just the way that the Bills play offense is so conducive to fantasy scoring. Like, you see that they threw 63 times last week in a bad game where the Bills only put up 19 points. Josh is still skating by with 30 plus. So it's just so hard to not play him, I think. And, Stephon Diggs is the best pay up option at wide receiver on this slate. And a lot of people are not going to be able to find their way to him in cash games. So I think that even strengthens the case for Josh Allen. So you're still getting some exposure to the best receiver play on the board, even if you don't end up playing him.
Yeah, I think Josh Allen is definitely the best play on the slate at the quarterback position. I mean, not much needs to be said about Josh Allen. But if you're watching this on replay or live, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a ton. Leave a like on the stream. And as always, throughout the entire stream, you can comment any questions or start sits or whatever you have. Any questions, you can comment, and we will answer them and put them on the screen. But moving on to what I think is going to be a popular option in terms of cash games for quarterbacks, I think it's Marcus Mariota at 5,600. I think he is going to be the pay down option that people gravitate towards. Marcus Mariota is actually projecting as, the best value on the entire slate at any position. And it's just a good game environment going up against this Cleveland Browns defense that is without Myles Garrett, without Jadeveon Clowney. They obviously can get beat, especially over the middle of the field. This Falcons team has, thrown the ball a little bit to start the season, and there's just a lot of shitty games, especially since a lot of these games are being played on the East Coast. And I don't know if you've been keeping up with the weather or anything, Ben, but there's a nice hurricane going up the East Coast as it stands. Hurricane Ian.
Yeah, scumbag.
Fuck Ian. And it's going to impact potentially a lot of games this weekend, but this game is in a dome. So it's one of the best game environments on the slate. It has a 47.5 total as it currently stands right now. And I think people are going to gravitate towards Mariota. But personally, I just prefer Josh Allen and getting to his ceiling rather than Mariota's 15 to 16 point floor.
Yeah, and I mean, look at that. I mean, you can see it on the screen right here with the game log 20, 16, 17. And those are in games where the Falcons are like greatly outperforming their expectation as a team. You know, they put up 26, 27, and 27. Their implied team total tomorrow is 23. So I don't know. It's like I feel like you're playing for floor at a position where ceiling is pretty accessible these days and pretty predictive. Like we know where the ceiling is most weeks at quarterback, and it just doesn't seem like it's here for me. I get the game environment stuff, but I've sort of been on like the wavelength that this, total has been too high for, a while now.
Yeah.
It has dropped, if I'm not mistaken, total. Yeah, down to 47.5. It was up at 49.5 when we recorded the podcast on Wednesday. So some adjustment there, but I personally don't think Mariota is that great of a play because we have so much value at running back and wide receiver. Like, I would rather pay down there, to be honest.
Yeah, there's just a ton of injuries that have opened up some value at the wide receiver position and running back position. We obviously are going to get on that, or we're obviously going to touch on that as the show goes on. But just in terms of cash games, I think you are playing Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, or Marcus Mariota. In terms of tournaments, who are your favorite, or who's your favorite quarterback play this week in, a relatively shitty quarterback pool?
What up, Matt? What up, Al? Got a couple regular viewers in the chat. Shout out to you boys. For tournaments this week, I'm keeping it very simple and concise, right? There's 4 players in my quarterback pool. It's the top 3 guys. It's Josh, it's Lamar, it's Jalen. And the lowest I'm going this week, to be honest, is Justin Herbert at 7,100. I'm not trying to get too fancy. I think that the paths to ceiling with these top guys is so clear that you're just not going to be able to beat it unless you hit a crazy percentile outcome with one of those small guys. But Justin Herbert completely healthy at this point, immaculate matchup against Houston, should be able to get it done here. You're getting a sizable discount. And then, all of his stacking partners are going to come with relatively low ownership as well. This seems like a really strong get right spot for the Chargers offense. And, Herbert 7,100, we really haven't seen the ceiling game yet. He had the 127 point game against Kansas City, but I mean, we know that Justin Herbert's ceiling is quite a bit higher than that. And I think that this might be the week that he taps into it.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously know Justin Herbert has 40 balls in his range as well as the top guys. You're getting, I think, a significant discount off of the Josh Allens, Lamar Jacksons of the world, for $1,200, $1,300 less in a great game environment in a dome against a very weak defense. Justin Herbert was actually off the injury report, which is encouraging to see. So I think that this Charger stack for tournaments is the best stack on the entire slate, in my opinion. The Chargers have a 25.5 implied, or they have a 25.25, implied team total, which is 5th highest on the slate, or 4th highest on the slate, just behind the Bills, the Eagles, and the Lions. I don't know how theirs is below the Lions with the Lions injuries, but still, nonetheless, I love Justin Herbert, and I do agree that this week is the week to have a relatively tight player pool in terms of your quarterback. I'm not playing Aaron Rodgers. I'm not playing Carson Wentz. I'm not playing Russell Wilson. I'm not playing Jared Goff. I'm not playing Derek Carr. I'm not playing Matt Ryan or Brissett or Tannehill or any of these other guys. I think just the top guys for me. I would even include Kyler in there personally, but he's obviously been really bad.
Yeah.
And then do you have any interest in Geno Smith?
No. Absolutely not. I just think that people sort of are like assuming that the Lions are going to be able to push teams the same way that they have been these past couple of weeks. And that's just, it just doesn't seem realistic. Like, I know that Jared Goff's been playing well in this Lions scheme, but I feel like he needs his playmakers, and they're going to be down Amon-Ra, DJ Chark, DeAndre Swift. Like, I just don't think they're going to be able to get it done in a meaningful way. And Jared Goff with no weapons mixed with Geno Smith does not equal fantasy gold to me, personally.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect segue into talking about one of the chalkiest running backs on the slate. I think quarterback, we covered it. Play the top guys. Play Justin Herbert. You're good there. Jamal Williams at 6,100. For all of the reasons that you mentioned, I think he is the easiest fade of the entire season in
Yeah.
tournaments specifically. Jamal Williams right now is projecting to be the highest owned player on the slate. Okay, over 30+% right now. And I could see that getting up to like 45, 50% in some small field, high dollar tournaments. And this is just a spot where I think you fade the Lions, in my opinion. I think Jared Goff going out there with Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds and TJ Hawkinson and Jamal Williams as his top options tomorrow is a recipe for disaster. I think that there's so much inherent risk playing a lot of these Lions, especially as chalk tomorrow, even in a good matchup at home. I know that the Seahawks are ass on defense. They're 31st in passing DVOA, right behind the Jets. So I know that they can be beat, but God, I do not want to bet on Jared Goff and this Lions offense tomorrow, especially as chalk. And I think Jamal Williams, you're probably playing him in cash just because he's 6,100. He's gonna see opportunity probably more than everybody else in this range. But in tournaments, if you play Jamal Williams in tournaments, like I don't even know. I think you're just a total donkey at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that the ownership and upside equation doesn't make sense. There's so much inherent risk with Jamal Williams, and it isn't even
You need
just
this.
the Lion. Yeah, you need that. And so I wanna preface this by saying that like the red zone usage role specifically for Jamal Williams has been absolutely elite up to this point. He's got the third most attempts inside the 20, the most inside the 10, and the second most inside the 5. But this is a situation where we think the Lions offense could fall flat and crater, so the red zone opportunities may be fewer and far between. And people are just like looking at this number of 20 attempts last week and thinking that that's a lock for Jamal, but that was like a mid-game injury, right, for Swift, where they had to do it. Now they've had all week to game plan. On Wednesday, Dan Campbell said that the skies would have to open up for Swift to play. So they've been planning all week with the assumption Swift would miss. And last year, there were 2 games where DeAndre Swift missed and Jamal Williams was active. He played 42% and 32% of snaps in those 2 games. One of those games happened to be against Seattle. So I don't know. I think that Jamal could easily finish with like a 50% snap share, 15 touches, and fail to get a touchdown if the Lions offense craters. And at that point, he's a clear-cut fade. I prefer, and we can talk about Khalil Herbert because he's going to be the other massive chalky running back. I think that Khalil Herbert's a far better play if you're in the mindset that you're going to be eating chalk in tournaments. I can at least understand the Khalil Herbert play because the talent and the upside I actually think is quite a bit better. And I think that the potential for him to be an actual true, like every down snap player is a lot better than it is with Jamal Williams.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything that you said, and I hope the people watching take what you said and implement that into their DFS tournaments. Because, like you said, Jamal Williams isn't pretty much what I got from it. Jamal Williams isn't going to be a 70+% snap guy, even
There's no way.
without DeAndre Swift there. Craig Reynolds is going to see a bunch of work. They have Justin Jackson, who most likely will be active for the game tomorrow as well. And so I think it'll be a running back by committee on a team that could potentially crater. And I do agree with everything that you said about Khalil Herbert. I do think that he's just more talented than Jamal Williams. I think that he has more opportunity upside. I think that there's just a better chance of Khalil Herbert being an 80% snap player rather than Jamal Williams being an 80% snap player. And the volume is pretty much the same, and he's cheaper, and he's more talented, and he's projecting as a better value. So for all those reasons, I do think Khalil Herbert is a better play than Jamal Williams. And if you are going to play a chalk cheap running back, I do prefer Herbert as well, even though obviously Vegas doesn't really love the Bears in this spot. They have an 18.25 implied team total in a game with a 39.5 total. So you are sacrificing something there just in terms of Vegas and what Vegas thinks is going to happen. Because the Lions game still has a 47.5 total, and the Lions have a 25.5 implied team total. So
yeah, which is wildly high, and I've bet the under on that twice already.
What's up, Big J? Is Derrick Henry a fish play tomorrow, Ben?
I don't think so. Um, I don't personally love it. I haven't really thought about playing it myself, but anytime that you can get Derrick Henry at sub 5% owned in large field tournaments, that you could always make the case because he's a walking 70-yard touchdown waiting to happen.
Totally agree. And I mean, if we just can get this
Yeah.
consistently out of Derrick Henry, he's a total smash. And we talked about this literally last stream. I said, why aren't you getting your best player the ball in any fashion? And then they come out and they give him, like 6 designed plays, 6 designed targets in the passing game, which was encouraging to see. And I think we could see that moving forward. So at 8,300, I definitely don't mind Derrick Henry in tournaments. You're obviously not playing him in cash. I think that for most people, in terms of cash, so double ups, head to heads, 50-50s, the 2 running backs that people are going to play tomorrow are Jamal Williams and Khalil Herbert.
Yep.
I think in terms of my running back cash pool, I think the only other running back I would consider is Saquon Barkley if you can get there at 8K in the same game as Khalil Herbert. We obviously know Saquon is a great running back. He's shown that he regained his explosiveness. He's like first in the NFL in terms of yards created. He legitimately puts this Giants team on his back, and the target expectation, I think, could be up in this spot as well, especially with the injuries that they've dealt with at the wide receiver position. They're going to need to use Saquon, and he's going to be a major factor tomorrow. So at 8K, I think he's the only other running back I would consider for cash. And I think there are some builds out there where you can play Saquon, Jamal Williams, and Khalil Herbert in cash.
Yeah, I do agree with that. The reason why I personally am more on the phase of not playing Barkley in cash is because I trust these cheaper running backs a little bit more. The 5K Herbert, Jamal Williams. We can talk about Josh Jacobs because he's going to be a popular option in cash as well. I trust that tier a little bit more than I trust the high end wide receiver chalk. Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson, guys we'll get to in a minute. But, if you're paying up for like, say, either Saquon or Diggs, I'm paying for Diggs personally. But that's just me. Josh Jacobs is projecting for quite a bit of ownership. I think that he will be a popular cash option as well. Just the psyche of DFS players, and I don't know why this is. It's like when a running back gets hurt, people want to play the guy who's getting the workload boost, even if there's a player in that same price range who has the same workload and has had that workload without the injury. But people, Swift is out, we're playing Jamal. Demont's out, we're playing Khalil Herbert. But Josh Jacobs has a pretty good role up to this point. His role's not changing. He's 5,500 at home against Denver. It's not a bad spot. Josh Jacobs is just a guy I never play, man. I mean, I don't know.
I think that I agree just in terms of like the whole psyche of DFS players. And that's a whole nother podcast that we could potentially talk about. But with Josh Jacobs, he's just not a sexy play, right?
Yeah.
He's just never hitting his ceiling unless he's scoring multiple touchdowns. So I think he's just a touchdown dependent, like average NFL running back, and he's just not sexy at all. Khalil Herbert is sexy, he's like the late round poster boy, best ball pick, right? Coming into the season, everybody loves Khalil Herbert. Jamal Williams is like a sex icon, and so people want to play those guys. People don't want to play Josh Jacobs, although Jacobs is projecting to be one of the highest owned running backs on the slate. I just don't see how that materializes with Herbert and Jamal Williams, only a few $100s more. So I don't necessarily believe he's going to be 20+% owned. I would be surprised personally. But if he is, I'm fading Josh Jacobs as well.
We have some important stuff we got to get to in the chat here. Jack wants to know how much to buy a winning lineup. He says that he'll pay, but it needs to at least 5x. I mean, I actually happen to have the DK Millimaker winner. It's currently not entered. I just have it sitting as like a shell. You can send 10K to me, and I mean, you'll way more than 5x your money. So hit me up on Twitter at Ben Hover, and I got you on the Millimaker winner, 10 bands. Send it through.
He said he's a busy person. He doesn't have time to sit around and listen.
I'm sorry, Jack. You got me on Twitter. DM. We can talk about this.
You do.
I sure do. I absolutely do.
Ale says Brees Hall and GPP as he slowly takes over the backfield before he's 6K. So yeah, I think in terms of cash, we've already discussed the cash game running backs. It's a fairly simple week. You're probably playing Khalil Herbert and Jamal Williams and moving on. So in terms of tournaments, I don't mind Brees Hall just because of this 21 targets through the first 3 weeks. I think for me, there's just a ton of risk with this Jets offense with Zach Wilson coming back. I'm not necessarily a believer in Zach Wilson as a talent, and we just really don't know if this Jets offense is going to function the same as it does with Joe Flacco, right? Like Joe Flacco over the first 3 weeks had like the most dropbacks out of any quarterback in NFL history. Okay. The Jets were just dropping back and not giving a fuck in passing, like at an insane rate. Are we going to get that with Zach Wilson coming off of a knee injury? I'm not sure, but that means that would be a good spot for Brees Hall, right? Potentially.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a thin play, but it's probably a play like you should make in a large field tournament.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I think that it makes sense for the reasons that you said. Theory wise, it's good. Something in my heart, I'm not playing any Jets this week. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think that Zach Wilson is not going to come in this spot and light it up. I think Zach Wilson's probably immediately about to be one of the 5 worst starting quarterbacks in the league. And I think the Steelers D is a phenomenal play this week. I wouldn't be playing any Jets personally.
Yeah. I mean, I hardly ever play any Jets, but I mean, I don't mind Brees Hall at 5,400. I think my favorite pay down running back for tournaments specifically is Rashad Penny, kind of just betting against the Lions offense being as efficient as Vegas thinks it's going to be. I know that you have multiple bets placed on the Lions team total under, so I think we're both kind of in sync on betting against this Lions team, and it's a good spot for Rashad Penny and the Seahawks offense going up against, just one of the worst defenses in the NFL, in my opinion. Detroit is bottom 8 in terms of rushing DVOA. I've been saying it every single week. We know Rashad Penny has slate breaking upside. It just hasn't materialized yet. Hopefully it can materialize this week. And I think this is just a situation where I just want to keep on betting on Rashad Penny to finally have that breakout game that I think and I know that he can have. And this is as good of a spot as any in a game that I personally believe the Seahawks should win tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Penny's a great play. I think he's a good salary saver, and he could easily beat, Jamal Williams in this same game at a massive ownership discount, a price discount. He's just a phenomenal play this week. I love Penny. I tried to play it last week, did not work, but maybe this is the week. A Jet will be in the winning GPP lineup. I'm leaning it'll be Moore or Corey Davis.
Actually, I don't mind that game. I think
Really?
that I like a lot of. I mean, it's disgusting to say, but I do like a lot of players in that game. I like Brees Hall. I like Deontay Johnson. I think a Jets wide receiver is fine. I just don't really believe in either of those defenses. But that game is that game being played in Pittsburgh or New York? That's a real question.
That game is being played in Pittsburgh. The Steelers are 3.5-point home favorites.
But there's no weather concerns for Pittsburgh. The only weather concern games on this slate are the Bears, Giants, the Jags and Eagles, and the Bills and Ravens on the East Coast.
And I think that would be a situation to, be cognizant of and be checking in the morning, because right now, like, those are the weather concerned games. We'll see. And I think a good indication will be on the totals and whether or not they drop tomorrow, because you pulled it up on Roto here, like 15 to 20 miles per hour winds with like a little bit of rain, decent chance for rain, like that's nothing to make me get off of a game. But
Yeah.
if it turns up a little bit worse and we start to see the totals drop, it'll be a reevaluation situation in the morning.
Yeah, for sure. But what are some other running backs that you like for tournaments this week? I think this is a beautiful
Oh my God.
tournament
So nice.
running back slate with just some easy fades, in my opinion, at the running back position as chalk. So who's your favorite? Who is winning you a tournament tomorrow at the running back position?
I mean, my absolute favorite right now is all the way at the top, Jonathan Taylor at 8,800. I'm a little bit disappointed because his ownership projections are getting up there. I said earlier in the week that I didn't really think that there was any possible way that he could get steamed, but I think that because there's so much wide receiver value that people are, finding accessibility to these higher priced running backs. Christian McCaffrey appears to be like legitimately in line to be limited tomorrow. So he's not going to draw any of that, ownership at the high end. So people are going to hone in on Jonathan Taylor, and for good reason. I think he is an absolutely phenomenal play right now. His usage is actually even better than it was last year, despite the results not quite being as elite, but he has a 12% higher share of the Colts rush attempts than he had last year. He has an 11% target share, which is up from his 9% target share last year. Titans are averaging or allowing an average of 6 yards per carry against their rush defense. They're just set up to get absolutely obliterated by Jonathan Taylor. And I think the Colts ride their must needed win against KC last week against a really, really weak Titans team.
Yeah. And I think with the lack of elite ceiling options at the wide receiver position and, the abundance of value wide receiver options, I think this is the perfect week to pay up at running back, whether that be JT or Derrick Henry or Austin Eckler, who's also projecting to be one of the best running back plays on the slate, which is unfortunate because on our Thursday podcast, I thought Eckler was going to be low owned.
Yeah.
And he might be more owned than JT. So I think
he will be.
I think I'd be more inclined to play Jonathan Taylor in this cupcake matchup at home against a struggling Titans run defense, like you said, giving up over 6 yards per carry to opposing running backs, and they've just had a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Like they've lost some of their best pass rushers and whatnot. So I think this is a spot to bet on, the touchdown regression to the mean hitting JT. And obviously that's how he's hitting his ceiling is through touchdowns. And if we get a 2 touchdown game out of JT at 8,800, I think he's smashing. And even if he's 12 to 15% in the large field stuff, I think that's totally fine, especially with the ownership condensing at, the value running backs. And it just gets you off the chalk build, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah. JT is game script dependent, and Tennessee easy 20 against Tennessee with an easy 25 touches. Yeah. I mean, is JT game script dependent? That's the question. We saw him get a bunch of targets in the first game that they played this season when they needed him to 7, and then he had 5 targets last week against KC. I mean, I think that he could be utilized in the passing game this year under this new coaching staff and with Matt Ryan behind center.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely had some solid target games already to start the season, but who's your long shot GBP running back play of the week? That's what the people want to know. Who's winning?
Yeah.
Somebody 10, 50, 100 or $1 million on DraftKings tomorrow.
I mean, I'll stick with the same guy that I said on the podcast earlier this week, and I'm not backing down from AJ Dillon season. And it's tough to say. I know that you've got that Patriots hoodie on right now. You've got that Patriots blanket on your bed, but if you didn't know, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but the Patriots are about to get absolutely fucking mollywopped tomorrow. And this man, you could see his smile on the face on his picture right there, bruh. He's happy, and he's going to be happy as he punches in 2 scores tomorrow. The difference between AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones workloads have been minimal, Dillon actually has out-touched Aaron Jones, and this specifically sets up as the perfect A.J. Dillon game script. Packers, I think the live line is 9, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, 9.5 is what I'm seeing. So massive favorites over 2 scores. You're getting a $1,500 discount off of Aaron Jones to go down to Dillon and get the same, if not a slightly better workload. You know, if the Patriots fall flat with Brian Hoyer in this spot, it could just be A.J. Dillon central for the second half of this game down into the fourth quarter as they're just running the clock out, and 2 touchdowns easily in his range. He's that type of player. Give me A.J. Dillon to win tournaments this week. He's priced right in between Herbert and Jamal Williams. You're going to get him at a fraction of the ownership. And yeah, A.J. Dillon for the win.
A.J. Dillon, LOL, that play sucks. How do you feel about that?
It's fine, dude. If he was a popular play that the people would be on, he wouldn't be in the Millie making lineup at 7-8%.
Is he in your Millie maker shell?
Of course he is, but I can't give that out for free. The rest of it, I just gave away 1/9 of the Millie maker for free.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't mind A.J. Dillon. I do give a Patriots prediction every week on this stream, right? 2-1 to start the season in terms of if we're gonna win or lose. And I want to sit here and say Brian Hoyer goes in there and leads a miraculous victory, but yeah, no, they're getting absolutely clapped. And A.J. Dillon has more touches than Aaron Jones this year. So I definitely don't think it's a bad play at all, especially when you look at the discrepancy between the two players in terms of their salary. A.J. Dillon is $6K. Aaron Jones is $7,500. Should it be that wide? No.
Absolutely not.
Just in terms of their usage in 2022 so far, this $1,500 salary gap, nah. My favorite tournament play at the running back position, funny enough, is Najee Harris.
Yep.
At 6,700. I think that this is just a spot where I think the Steelers at home against Zach Wilson should be able to dominate. I think we're going to get a 20-plus touch game out of Najee Harris. I think he has multiple touchdown upside in this spot as well. We saw Nick Chubb, obliterate the Jets rushing defense, and Najee Harris is no Nick Chubb at all. But I think that we can get 2 touchdowns out of Najee in this spot. 6,700. What's his ownership projection looking like? Probably nothing crazy.
No, I mean, it's actually gotten steamed quite a bit. He's up.
Everybody's on it. Everybody's on the good plays.
Yeah, dude, he might be like 15%. Like him, JT, Eckler are all in that like secondary tier of chalk at this point.
Yeah, that's insane. If Najee's 20% owned, that's just a shout out to the industry because everybody's on it. I would just go to Javonte Williams then at 6,600.
Yeah, no, and can I just say I kind of don't buy that that Najee's going to be that highly owned. I don't see how there could be that much ownership because we know Jamal and Khalil are going to be massively owned, right? And then I think Jonathan Taylor is getting steamed because people have the salary to pay up. He's getting touted by high sway touts. I'm not talking about myself here. Like, large following people in the industry are on JT. Eckler's going to get steamed. He's projecting out of this world. He's showing up in cash game optimals, if you're using certain projections. So Saquon is going to be owned. Like, I don't see how Najee can get up to 15, to be honest. And I think that that's a little bit high for him.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Najee probably comes in somewhere between like 8 to 12% rather than 15 to 17%, especially in some of the high dollar, low entry field tournaments where Jamal Williams could potentially push like 50%.
Yep.
And if you play a 50% plus Jamal Williams in terms of ownership, like you're an idiot. Period. Just to put it lightly. In the main slate, in the early only, whatever. Yeah, I don't care. If you play a 65% owned Jamal Williams in certain tournaments, like You
You
got
just you just can't do it. You just
you got it.
can't.
You got to your DFS tournament card needs to be revoked, in my opinion.
Al says Rodgers would hand the ball off 40 plus times a game and be content with the win. Dude, don't give a fuck. Yeah, that's facts. Bobby in the chat asks, do we like Knox this week? Dawson from the Bills? Yes, we do. And we'll talk about that as we get to tight end. You wanna switch over to wide receiver? I feel like we've pretty much hit on everybody that I want to talk about at running back.
Yeah. Yep. So at wide receiver, it's an interesting week just because there are a ton of injuries. So you have Amon-Ra St. Brown out for the Lions. You also have DJ Chark out for the Lions. You have Hunter Renfrow out for the Raiders. You have Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson out for the Giants. Sterling Shepard also towards ACL, if you guys did not know, last week. Assuming everybody does know that. So a ton of value has opened up at the bottom of the wide receiver pool. So if we take a look down here, and obviously I can't pull everybody up on the screen, but just in this range specifically, you have a ton of guys that are projecting relatively well. So you have Mac Hollins at 4,200, kind of a similar play to how he was last week, just a $900 increase. You have Josh Reynolds at 4,600, who should operate as the Lions wide receiver one. He has a rapport with Jared Goff going back to their days in LA with the Rams. You have Richie James at 4K, who should be the biggest beneficiary of those Giants wide receivers being out, and he should be the slot guy for Daniel Jones. And I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards those three guys: Mac Hollins, Josh Reynolds, and Richie James Jr. Personally, I'm having a hard time of figuring out which one I like the best.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any concrete thoughts about these cheap wide receivers, or which one do you prefer? Because I don't necessarily have a lean as it stands right now.
I prefer Reynolds. Right now, I think that, with the lack of Amon-Ra St. Brown and Swift and Chark there, and the positive matchup, they're at home, no weather concerns, familiarity with Jared Goff. Josh Reynolds is able to kick inside the slot and may do so even more with Amon-Ra St. Brown out, obviously coming off of a 10-target game. He's my favorite of the group. I just think that he's, rock solid to get you 12 points as a floor in this spot, and, maybe a little bit extra. Mac Hollins would probably be number 2 for me, just because he's an every snap player, irregardless of injury. Obviously, he ran hotter than the fucking sun last week, just putting up 32 points, got the price bump, but is still in a pretty good situation. Denver's been pretty good against pass catchers, so maybe that's a concern, but I tend not to weight, match up that heavily early in the season. I think that it's still very fluid this early, very small sample to be looking at DVOA numbers and, positional ranks against certain positions on defense. It's just too early in my opinion. So I think Hollins is good. And then Richie James, I just don't like that game, man. I just do not like that game. He's going to be so chalky. I think you can play him in cash. He's probably the giant that I'd be most likely to play in cash. But tournaments full fade for sure. I don't know, man. We've come such a long way. There's no way we can play Darius Slayton at 3K, is there? As max leverage, go back to the old days, play Godius. I mean, he had 19% of snaps last week.
Oh, I forgot about Darius Slayton. Oh, Jesus.
Tell me that's not max leverage off of Richie and Saquon? Come on.
I mean, max leverage would be playing the wide receiver that they paid $72 million for 100 less than Richie James.
Yeah.
Kenny Golladay.
Kenny G, 3,900. That's some fucking big nuts, big brain shit.
Which I might do in one tournament lineup, to be honest. But nonetheless, in terms of cash games specifically, the way the projections have it is they have it Richie, Mac Hollins, Josh Reynolds. So the opposite of how you have it ranked.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't want to play Richie James, but he should see targets, and he is the cheapest of the bunch, which I think is why people are going to gravitate towards Richie. I think he's okay for cash. You have to play one of these guys, and I think you are choosing between the three. And like I said, I don't really have a lean right now. I kind of do like Josh Reynolds, and I've played him before in DFS. I think that people trying to buy into Mac Hollins, a week after his ceiling game is probably bad. And you said you don't tend to weight matchups in DVOA and whatnot's too early. I do agree, but some defenses are just bad, and some
Yeah,
defenses are just good. Even after 3 weeks.
true.
And I think that the Broncos defense is just a good defense. So you're probably playing one of these three. I don't know if you have any interest in Khalif Raymond at 3K, who should be the slot wide receiver for the Lions. Do you have any interest in him in cash?
Yeah. Well, hang on. No, not well. Okay, in cash, a little bit. I think that you could make that play, but I don't think that I want to. I think I would rather play Reynolds. I just think that the connection he has with Goff is significant enough, and I just don't see Reynolds falling on his face. Whereas I could see Khalif Raymond, finishing with 2 catches and totally burning you. But I don't think it's horrible. And I think that Khalif Raymond makes more sense in tournaments because he's not going to be owned, and he lets you, get to some of those high price studs like Diggs and Allen, or I'm sorry, Diggs, Allen, Stacks, and Mark Andrews, bring back some stuff like that. So I do think he's okay in tournaments as a pivot off of Reynolds and TJ Hawkinson chalk. He's not going to be like 1% owned. I think that Khalif Raymond probably comes in around 10%, maybe a little bit less, but I think you can go there as a punt in tournaments for stars and scrubs builds, but I would probably try not to go there in cash.
Yeah. So Mr. Torian in the chat asks, who's your favorite wide receivers under 7,500? So we'll just do 7K. Right now he's playing Brown, Cooper, and Lamb. Like it, love it, or would attack differently. I know you have some thoughts about these specific players, so
Yeah. Are we talking cash or tournaments is the question.
he's probably talking tournaments, but
If he's talking tournaments, I would probably be off CeeDee Lamb because of the ownership. Then again, looking at some updated ownership projections, I'm actually shocked. My boy Cortland Sutton has hopped these guys, and I had him as like a low-owned tournament long shot early in the week, and I guess he's gotten steamed. So GG's on that. I think these guys are okay. I preferred earlier in the week guys like Gabe Davis that I think you could get to, but you are sacrificing quite a bit in terms of target projection because CeeDee Lamb, top 5 target share in the league right now. He's going to get there. He's just been feasting 11, and 12 targets over the past 3 games. I know that the quality of targets are not high with Cooper Rush, but from a projection standpoint, from an expectation of targets standpoint, CeeDee Lamb makes a lot of sense. I think it's easier to get off of Cooper and Marquise Brown just for game environment. I think that those are 2 pretty unappealing games, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And, the 3 wide receivers that he mentioned in that comment, okay? Deontay Johnson, CeeDee Lamb, and A.J. Brown. Where do those guys rank in target share out of every wide receiver in the NFL, Ben? Do you know?
I thought he was talking about Marquise Brown.
Oh.
Not A.J. Brown.
Oh. Well,
A.J. Brown's totally different. I think A.J. Brown's
well, he said under 7,500. A.J. Brown is 7,400. So I'm assuming A.J. Brown.
Okay. If A.J. Brown is the question, I think A.J. Brown is a fucking smash this week. Yeah, and I want to play him everywhere.
Yeah, A.J. Brown is a total smash. But Deontay Johnson has a 32% target share. CeeDee Lamb has a 32% target share. And A.J. Brown has a 31.6% target share. They are 2, 3, and 4 in the NFL in terms of target share out of every wide receiver. And, he said A.J., which is who I assumed. We're not playing fucking Hollywood Brown at 6,900. But yeah, those 3 guys specifically are top 4 in the NFL in terms of target share. Their ceilings are extremely high. They're talented wide receivers. and I love all three in tournaments. And AJ Brown, especially at his ownership projection right now, is a total smash, in my opinion. We just have to hope that the Jags can at least push the Eagles a little bit. And in this spot, I think they should be able to, although the Eagles are a team that I would consider to have just an all-around good defense, even after 3 weeks. So the matchup isn't great, but it is a Doug Peterson revenge game, which nobody is talking about.
Doug Peterson revenge game for sure. Christian Kirk, I love this week. Yeah, and I mean, God, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Christian Kirk as a 3-play game stack just looks like it's going to be fucking absolute gold this week.
We know where the Eagles get beat, and that's over the middle of the field. Christian Kirk in the slot. Trevor Lawrence is number 1 wide receiver. I mean, that's a great that's a great stack.
Also, Zay Jones is, coming off of a career game. I think that regresses a little bit in terms of his receptions. He's also questionable coming into this game. Think he plays, but he may not be 100%. Love Christian Kirk.
You mentioned this in our Discord.
Yes, AJ Brown just had a baby boy, and like as if you needed any more fuel to that fire. Like, come on, he's going out there and he's doing it for Junior, bro. Come on.
The newborn baby narrative never fails.
No,
the birthday narrative, breakfast narrative, and newborn baby narrative. Top 3.
Survive death narrative is in play right now. So it smashed and then it flopped, but I mean, we'll get to this in a minute. I mean, I think it might be on pace to smash again tomorrow. But I do just want to say the thing with CeeDee Lamb and Deontay Johnson, we talked about this in depth on our podcast if you guys want to go back and listen, but I think that raw target share numbers sometimes have to be taken with a grain of salt when they're on god awful teams with very low scoring expectations.
But as you can see, all those team on the slate. That's the only issue.
It's not though. It's not every team on this slate. Like you could play so Deontay is 6K flat. You could play Mike Williams for a couple hundred more on a phenomenal offense. You're sacrificing some target share, but the upside is just as high. You could play Gabe Davis. You're sacrificing the target share, but the upside is high on a team with a 27-point total, like the best offense in the NFL. Like it's not totally true,
Yeah, I'm just saying in terms of raw opportunity, all of the target share guys are on bad teams. Obviously, that the ceiling guys can still get there, and in tournaments, they're definitely great plays. But, Deontay Johnson at a 32% target share or Gabe Davis at a 12% target share. It's like Deontay is a better play than Gabe Davis for sure. I think.
Yeah, but Deontay Johnson on a team that's scoring 18 points a week, or Gabe Davis on a team that's scoring 30 points a week, and those are accurate numbers. That's not an exaggeration. Or Dallas, with CeeDee Lamb, who the Cowboys are the 3rd worst scoring offense in the league right now, 15 points per game. Like it's not just results oriented. If these situations have a low chance of changing, and with Mitch Trubisky and Cooper Rush, I don't think that like these are great bounce back spots to be attacking.
No, for sure. But those are only 2 guys out of the entire slate, right? The rest of these guys are on bad teams in bad game environments, right? You got your Brandon Cooks on a bad team. You got your Tyler Lockett on a bad Seahawks team. You got your DJ Moore on a bad Panthers team. I think there's just a ton of opportunity available. Drake London, on a bad Falcons team. I think there's a ton of opportunity, a ton of target share available with these mid-range guys. I think you are kind of overvaluing, game environments and whatnot. At the end of the day, I want the players who are getting the ball, and especially on a full PPR site, if these guys are seeing 10, 11, 12 targets and just have that raw target opportunity, the probability of them beating the guys that are only going to get 6 targets, even if they are in better game environments, is just so high. So I love Deontay Johnson this week. I like Drake London. I think Brandon Cooks is a great bring back for the Charger stack, which is one of my favorite. And ultimately, I'm just going to be playing a bunch of these guys in this range. Because on a slate like this, I want as many targets and I want as many opportunities for catches as possible on a slate where I don't think there's that many great ceiling plays at the wide receiver position.
I guess that is fair. I mean, you could definitely be on the Darnell Mooney bounce back if you're all about target share. He's got a 25% target share. You gonna be playing some Darnell Mooney this week?
5K?
Yeah.
Bob
I mean,
just woke up for a nap. Is that why you mentioned Darnell Mooney?
It came up. Had a dream you guys were getting zooted on the stream, no cap. No, I mean that's after. That's the tradition after the stream, at least for me.
Yeah. No, I'm not playing Darnell Mooney. Obviously, you got to take into context the target shares and how much they're throwing the goddamn ball.
Okay.
The Bears are obviously outlier, but nonetheless, in terms of cash, you're probably playing Deontay Johnson or Tyler Lockett. I think these two guys are the best plays in this range. I think Drake London is a little bit behind them, but I think Deontay Johnson at 6K is probably in your cash game lineup. I think Tyler Lockett can also be in your cash game lineup at 5,900. And I think the pivot would be DK Metcalf at 6,800 as the tournament pivot off of Tyler Lockett. Chalk, 12 targets last week, definitely encouraging. And we've mentioned it before, but the Seahawks just want to let Geno rip the ball for some reason. And in this spot against this Lions secondary, I could see Okudah matching up with like Tyler Lockett. I think he's more of a corner fit to guard Tyler Lockett. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe he goes and locks down DK Metcalf, but Okudah's been playing well to start the year. But DK Metcalf at 6,800, I think is a great tournament pivot this week.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Think it makes a lot of sense. Also, I mean, Tyler Lockett to me seems like pretty thin chalk. I mean, we've already talked at length about, you know, the inherent risk with this game in general, and buying into Tyler Lockett chalk ain't the wave. In the chat, Michael asks, you can only pick one for GPP, Adams or Waller. Yeah, I mean, Joe, you got it on the screen before I could even answer. Devontae Adams for sure. And I think Adams is a great play this week. He's going to be direct leverage off of Josh Jacobs, who's going to be a top 5 running back in terms of ownership. He's going to be direct leverage off of Matt Collins, who I believe will also be a top 5 wide receiver in terms of ownership. What else needs to be said? Like, you're getting a super high upside play. You're getting him in a good bounce back spot. I mean, I don't know. I guess the only downside that you could make a case for Adams would be matchup, but with a player of his caliber, I'm not even considering that.
Yeah. At home, matches up all over the field. So it's not like he's going to get stuck on one specific cornerback on the Broncos, right? And I think from a game environment perspective, this could be a slower paced game. And these Broncos games just haven't been fantasy friendly at all, which is definitely worrisome. On the podcast that we dropped on Thursday, which is linked down below in the description, I did choose this game as, you know, my sneaky shootout game of the week. A game that I think that this is a game that I think could potentially go over 50 points in terms of the total. That's currently below 50 as Vegas has it stands right now. It's like 44.5. But Devontae Adams, one of the highest ceiling players in the NFL, you know, 34 targets through 3 weeks. We obviously know the target opportunity is going to be there. Touchdown in every game. He has a red zone role. No Hunter Renfrow. And some of that Matt Collins should go to Devontae Adams this week. So I don't mind Devontae as, you know, a leverage play off of, like you said, Josh Jacobs and Matt Collins, and as a leverage play off of Stephon Diggs, who should be a little bit more owned than Devontae Adams on this slate.
Completely agree with that. Chris in the chat asks, what up, guys? Would you go Knox Henry or Gabe Davis Jacobs? Is that a tournament question? They're like different positions. Or, I guess unless he's rolling 2 tight end. I guess either way, I would probably go with Knox Henry for large field.
Darren Waller is going to be lower owned than Devontae Adams. So we'll talk about Darren Waller at the tight end position, but Is there any other wide receivers? Is there any other long shot wide receivers you want to mention for tournaments? Who's the one wide receiver that's going to win somebody $1 million tomorrow? Is it him?
I think he's such a good play, dude. 5%. Mike Williams has been this year like the type of guy where he's either, highly going to disappoint you or he's going to go fucking nuclear. And I think that tomorrow sets up really well. It's another game without Keenan Allen. Texans secondary is absolutely nothing to be afraid of. I for sure want to buy into Mike Williams here. And we may have an early year trend developing, Joe. If you pull that game log back up, it is an even week. And this is just something to track. We're always big on the odd and even week splits, and this could be a huge week 4 for Mike Williams.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, start of October, week 4.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's about to get spooky.
Might be getting into spooky hours. It really could be. To answer your question, other wide receivers that I think I would be interested in, I guess, yeah, I mean, Mike Williams is one. Christian Kirk, I already mentioned. I think that Rashad Bateman is interesting as well. Just because of the price that he's at, and there's so many of the chalky guys around him, he's going to get completely overlooked. Like, he has an ownership projection of like 2% right now, and he's in the clear-cut best game environment on the slate. He's Lamar Jackson's wide receiver 1. He's the second option to Mark Andrews, but the Bills have been a team that has done really well against tight ends. And, Bateman is certainly boom or bust. You're definitely sacrificing a lot in terms of projections to play him. But if you're, playing a shootout stack with Josh Allen, I think Bateman makes a lot of sense in lineups with either Lamar or Josh Allen.
Yeah. Personally, I'm not playing Rashad Bateman. I mean, just needs major efficiency against one of the best pass scheme defenses in the NFL to hit. And I mean, we can see it. You see it right here. 8 catches, but he has 226 yards on 8 catches through 3 weeks. Just a massive, massive outlier efficiency with Rashad Bateman. It's not going to happen every single week. I'm not playing Rashad Bateman, especially with the other wide receivers in that range that are just going to see 5, 6, 7 more targets than Bateman. I don't care about how good the game environment is. It's probably just a bad spot for Lamar Jackson in terms of him as a passer tomorrow against his Bills pass defense. But
yeah, I mean, you could be right, or this game could finish with 20 points higher than the next total game on the slate, and you're going to need multiple pieces from it to win.
Yeah, I don't think that happens. But nonetheless, my favorite player at the wide receiver position, I mean, I do agree. It's probably Mike Williams. A.J. Brown as well as 6%. Mr. Torian as Justin Herbert stack with Mike Williams and Palmer. Fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, you're getting Williams, Palmer, or Everett all at like 8% or less. So, I mean, no matter how you choose to double your Justin Herbert stacks, you're getting it in good. You know what I
mean? Bob mentioned Elijah Moore. I wonder where is Elijah Moore?
5K.
Have I just been scrolling by him? Elijah Moore, 4,800.
Even less.
Get it right. Okay, get it right, Ben. You're not
Bro,
locked in. You don't even know the prices.
You couldn't even find him. You asked me what price he was.
Is Elijah Moore Zach Wilson's boy? They are best friends.
They are?
So
you think the pendulum, shifts back to Moore over Garrett with the departure of Flacco?
It potentially could.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean,
they've probably smashed a MILF together
at the same time.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, if they're giving it up like that, then yeah, I want to have Elijah Moore in every lineup.
They've probably right, like they're boys. New York City.
I guess, man. I forgot about that whole Zach Wilson thing. Maybe I shouldn't have been putting so much disrespect on his name.
I mean, yeah, but so Elijah Moore has 21 targets through the first 3 games with Joe Flacco. As you can see on the screen, Garrett Wilson has 25 plus 8, so 33. So he has 12 more targets. Does some of those targets regress to Elijah Moore and the other Jets pass catchers is really the question. And this is most likely a game where if the game plays out how I think, Zach Wilson will probably have to drop back quite a bit.
Yeah. Agreed with that. I think Elijah Moore is an okay play. I guess I don't hate it as much as I maybe initially thought. Maybe you can play Elijah Moore, Najee Harris, 2-play correlations. I think that's okay. What up, Zach? Zach in the chat says that he would rather go Noah Brown or Dortch over Elijah Moore. Rondale Moore is going to play.
Moore is back, yeah.
Yeah,
which we didn't talk about, actually. He's 3,800, and he should take over that Dortch role, which has been a good role.
I know it's been a good role, but like I don't want to like get away from that. Like we don't think Rondale Moore is good. Like maybe we would consider this in a different week, but I just think that like with the other cheap receivers, like with Matt Collins only 400 more, Richie James 200 more, Reynolds is 800 more. Like I think that they're all better plays than Rondale.
Yeah, I mean Rondale is definitely a tournament play. If he does take over that Dortch role, it's a better role than Richie James' role and potentially Matt Collins' role and Josh Reynolds' role. And he's cheaper than all of those guys. So glad that we brought him up. I actually don't mind him. Him and Dortch are kind of the same player. Rondale Moore is just way more athletic and has way more upside. But yeah, other than that, not many other wide receivers that I like this week. Besides those guys, the Dallas guys are interesting. Noah Brown, Zach did mention, is kind of interesting. Noah Brown is kind of interesting. He is the Cowboys wide receiver too. Should see a ton of targets. I wonder if Jalen Tolbert gets more of an expanded role. He played like 20% of the snaps last week in his first game back against the Giants. So I'm interested to see how they, integrate Tolbert into the offense. And Gallup, I think, is still is Gallup going to play? Gallup's back.
Gallup's fully healthy. He was off the injury report.
Is this the 1% Millie Maker play?
Yeah, I mean, because of Gallup's return, and I mean, I've always been a Gallup guy. I think Gallup's like legit good. I personally don't want to play like Noah Brown or any of that Jalen Tolbert.
I thought he was still out, but he's not even on the injury report, which is interesting.
Yeah, he's good to go.
Michael Gallup at 5,100. I don't know.
I like it. I like it as leverage off of CD, and we've been on this wavelength for years, and it's paid off multiple times. It's like if these guys are playing, treat them like they're good. You know what I mean? So I'm not worried that he's coming off of injury. I would be fine playing Michael Gallup in this spot.
Especially with how fast these players recover from injuries now. Like, I mean, we saw Chris Godwin come back, and he was getting targets in that first game until, he pulled his hamstring. But nonetheless, moving on to tight end, we have a bunch of questions about tight end.
Yeah, we got some people going off in the chat. Bobby, asked if there was any interest in Noah Fant. JJ Cheeks come in and says, no, that's a donkey play. And then Bobby comes back with the roast, says he's not asking you, bro. Look at his picture. That man's picture, bro. Come on.
JJ Cheeks, shout out to that guy. But then he asks, is double tight end on DK viable? Seen it win a milli a couple times. Double tight end has won the Millie Maker a few times since we've been doing this podcast for the last few years. But it's just not viable enough. The ceiling isn't high enough on those double tight end lineups. Like, it takes like just the perfect slate run out for those lineups to hit, especially with the top guys all priced up, usually like in Mark Andrews, Kittle, and Travis Kelce. And their ceilings are just so much lower than the wide receivers and running backs. So there will be weeks throughout the season where double tight end is viable, especially on short slates, but it's usually once, max twice a year. So if we're talking like 21 weeks of main slates and millie makers, once or twice will a double tight end ship a slate. So do the percentage on that. What is that, like 2%,
5%.
5%?
If it's out of 20,
Yeah. So 5% of the time, double tight end is winning year over year. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
and I would say that this is not a slate to look at that, because the times that does work is when there's no value on the slate and there's really strong pay up options, right? Like that works because you're saving salary with the tight ends, but you can save salary with wide receiver and running back this week, so it's not necessary. The receivers are just running better routes. They're going to be deeper down the field. They have better chances of making explosive plays than these low price tight ends. So this is a slate that I don't think that I would want to be looking at double tight end on.
Yeah. But somebody brought up Noah Fant, 3,100. I mean, personally, I have no interest in Noah Fant this week. I think that for cash games, you're probably playing TJ Hawkinson, in my opinion. At 4,100, with just the injuries that they have on that Lions offense that we've talked about over the entire stream, I think it just opens up a ton of potential target volume in one of the best game environments, per Vegas odds for Hawkinson. And there is some touchdown upside, I think, there with Hawk. So I think that he is the best cash game tight end, but like paying 4,100 for a tight end in cash is just, I don't know. It's not good, to me at least.
Yeah. And his ownership is going to be way too high, I think, to even consider in tournaments. Josh in the chat asks like Hawkinson or Pitts.
I mean,
give me Pitts.
You're
Easy.
playing Pitts 100%.
Yeah. 10 out of 10 times you're playing Pitts in tournaments.
In terms of cash, I think the other cash game tight end is Njoku.
Yeah.
I think that those two guys are going to be two of the highest owned tight ends on the slate as the pay down tight ends this week. It's just very, very disgusting in the tight end streets this week. And this is one of the best game environments per Vegas odds as well. So Njoku and TJ Hawkinson are going to be the guys that people gravitate towards in cash, and should be two of the highest owned tight ends on the slate. And in tournaments, I'm just going to fade both of them.
Yep, definitely agree. And that goes back to the point that somebody in the chat had earlier about Dawson Knox. I think he's a great play this week at 3,800, just sort of priced in between some other chalky guys on a great offense. The, target numbers haven't looked great, but he can easily score 2 touchdowns in any given performance. Bills are always going to be right at the top tier in terms of implied team total. On any given slate, they're number 1 this week. So, I mean, I like Dawson Knox. You're going to get him at no ownership. I also think Gerald Everett fits into that bill as well for like a good tournament pivot. Like him and Dawson Knox are on the best 2 offenses in this price tier, and they're going to be way lower owned than Hawkinson and Njoku. And
yeah,
the final point that I wanted to make, just to say one thing about how you said it, Hawkinson is the cash game tight end. I feel like there's so much risk, and we've kind of beaten this point to death, but I just feel like there's too much risk with the Lions offense to play 3 guys in cash. So if you're playing a Lions receiver and you're playing Jamal Williams, I think that it's worth just, saving some salary and going Njoku instead.
Yeah, definitely agree. But I think the chalk build that you don't have is going to be Hawkinson and Jamal and no Lions wide receiver, because Richie James is probably going to be higher owned than Josh Reynolds on this slate. So I just don't think you're on the chalk build, which is obviously fine.
I mean, yeah, no, you're right. But I mean, I agree with you. I think that Richie James is definitely going to be way chalkier than like Reynolds, for example. But Reynolds is still projecting it to be top 5 in ownership. Like he'll get played at a decent clip.
Yeah. No, yeah. Reynolds is going to be owned, but I think in cash games, people are going to go the Hawkinson, Richie James or Matt Collins route over the Josh Reynolds Njoku route. It's just projecting. Yeah. It's projecting better.
Okay.
Just point blank period. So I think just the build that you have currently isn't going to be the chalk build, and TJ Hawkinson is the preferred tight end even over Njoku. I think that the target opportunity is just a little bit better, and the game environment is projected to be better. So that's why Hawkinson for 400 more is going to be a little bit higher owned than Njoku, and he's probably going to be the chalkiest tight end in cash this week. But Zach mentioned Conklin. I do like Conklin at 3,600. He's the top of the NFL in terms of like routes ran for tight end and targets at the tight end position. Obviously, there's still a ton of risk with this Jets offense and how it's going to function with Zach Wilson under center, but he looks to be like the guy in terms of the tight end that is going to run the routes. And in this spot, 3,600, I don't mind just taking a stab at Conklin, even Robert Tonyan, who gets targeted quite frequently on the routes he runs. And he also mentioned Daniel Bellinger. Now, this I don't agree with. I don't think Bellinger is a good play. I think that this game environment is obviously not great. I think that this Giants offense is probably just going to be terrible. It's just going to crater. And I think that he's just not going to get targeted on the routes he runs. And to begin with, he's not even running a ton of routes. He's in like the 40% range, right? So he's not a guy that I necessarily care to play this week, even at 2,800. I think the upside is really low. Like I'd rather just take a shot on like I don't even know. I'd rather just take a shot on Noah Fant, like bringing up Noah Fant.
Like. The GPP tournament play is chasing OJ Howard's 2 touchdowns with Brevin Jordan ruled out and Pharaoh Brown questionable at 2,700. OJ Howard has 3 catches on the year. 2 of them are touchdowns. So, I mean, obviously not a good play, but
that does depend on Pharaoh Brown, though, because Pharaoh Brown played more snaps than OJ Howard last week.
Yeah, so, if Pharaoh Brown is like a surprise inactive in the morning and we get OJ Howard at 2,700 for bringbacks and your Justin Herbert stuff, I mean, Jesus Christ.
That's how you know tight end is bad, when we're talking about Pharaoh Brown as a potential option.
Shout out to the people in the chat real quick. WW Fresh saying this is his favorite show of the week. Also had Mr. Torian, say that, thank us for the insightful information. So, we appreciate you guys too, man. Deadass.
And if we saw this Albert O price in week 1, like we'd be all over it. It's just disgusting to see that. Like we can't even play this dude,
Yeah. I mean, we didn't know that Russ was going to be
crazy how much 3 weeks of football can influence.
Any concern with the Gabe Davis ankle injury? I mean, it depends on if he gets ruled out or not. I don't think that he is likely to get ruled out. Should be good to go in this spot. If he's healthy, I think that we play him. I mean, he had a full-time role last week coming off of similar concerns, and he's going to have no ownership. So I'm fine with playing Gabe Davis this week in game stacks.
Bob asked, Justin Fields over under 148 passing yards, which, fun fact, is the lowest prop line for a starting quarterback, like in the history of props or some shit.
Really?
Yeah.
That makes me want to lean over because he can't be this sustainably bad. Right?
No, the sharp money would probably be on the under.
It probably would. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't actually bet a Justin Fields over. There's no shot.
He might just be low key bad. That's the thing.
Which is sad because it's just sad.
He might just low key be bad. But I think in terms of tournaments, this range that nobody's going to be in is like this Ertz Goddard range. I don't mind Goddard as part of Jalen Hurts stacks. Don't mind Pitts at all. I think Darren Waller is probably the guy, though.
Yeah.
We saw somebody comment about it earlier. Darren Waller, as also, he's as good of a leverage play as Devontae Adams is. Just kind of need touchdowns for him to get there. But on a slate like this, where the tight end position is so bad, Darren Waller is just one of the guys that can separate from the rest of the pool. I think him and Andrews are really the only tight ends that can on this slate. And Darren Waller is $1,500 cheaper than Mark Andrews. So I don't mind Waller at all. Even as a one-off. Like, you don't even have to stack it. I don't mind Waller as a one-off. And I think just getting an upside tight end on a slate like this is probably the optimal strategy.
Yeah. Um, I agree. I agree with that. I think I'm just going to a different player, and it's It's like going to be chalky, but it's Mark Andrews, and he's not going to be the highest owned tight end on the slate. Like that'll be Hawkinson, and Andrews to me, despite being 7,100, despite being the highest priced tight end on the slate, I think is underpriced for his role. Travis Kelce was almost 8K last week, and Mark Andrews has frankly been outperforming him since the end of last off season. He is a legitimate wide receiver one right now, just labeled as a tight end. He would be the wide receiver 6 overall in PPR if he were a wide receiver. I think getting up to him makes a ton of sense this week. Like he'll have ownership, but it's not going to be to the point where you can't play him. He'll be like sub 15. So I think Andrews is thoroughly in play this week.
Yep, Andrews obviously has shown that you have to consider him now every single week in tournaments, no matter his price. And we were getting like a wide receiver at Mark Andrews' price, right? With his target share and his upside and his stats on the year, like he'd be a lock button.
Yeah.
So if you think about it from that perspective, like if Mark Andrews just had a WR instead of a TE right here, he'd probably be like one of the highest owned players on the slate.
Yeah. For sure. And I think Mark Andrews is a phenomenal play this week.
Yeah. Defense, I mean, you could honestly just play whatever defense fits. I don't think there's going to be like an overly chalk defense. I think people are probably going to gravitate towards the Bears and Giants D this week in cash. Bob said Seahawks D is the best leverage play. I mean, yeah.
I love that.
Seahawks D,
Good call.
2,400 is a very good leverage play. Other than that, I think you just play whoever. I mean, Steelers are a great play this week. I think that I don't even know, man.
I mean,
Steelers.
that's my defensive take of the week is you pay up for the Steelers. I mean, it's kind of hard because like we're trying to jam in some high price guys, but with the value, you can make it work. And yeah, like Steelers at 3,600 at home against Zach Wilson in his first game action of the year. That makes a ton of sense to me. I definitely want to have an overweight position on the Pittsburgh DST.
Yeah. All right. If anybody has any questions, get them in. We got a good amount of people watching.
We'll answer
any question. You want to build a tournament lineup?
Yeah, I was going to say we got a request to build a GPP team. So why don't we do that to close out the stream here?
All right. So for any large field tournament, are we building it for a large field tournament? That is the question. Are we building a Millie Maker team right here?
Yeah.
All right, Millie Maker team.
I think we're on board with what stack we're going to play, right?
I think we're going to make it fit.
Yeah.
So we're going Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, and we could get super unique, and we'd obviously have to make it work. We could play Eckler. I think that's fine, just because of his pass catching ability. And obviously with this Charger stack, we don't necessarily have to worry about ownership, or we could go cheap with like Palmer or Everett. But I think Eckler is still in play for this stack. Yeah, I mean, I'll leave it up to you.
My vote for this would be Everett because I think that there's other good receivers in that 5K range that we can consider. And Everett, he gives us leverage off of, the Hawk and Njoku chalk. He fits into our double stack, and we're still paying down decently at tight end. So he's my favorite target here.
All right. Personally, I think I would go Eckler and make it work. And it maybe play like a Pharaoh Brown.
Yeah.
Instead of Everett. The only thing that concerns me is if we're bringing it back, the best bring back is obviously Brandon Cooks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to be super chalky, and I don't want to play a chalky Brandon Cooks at 5,800.
Yeah,
that's the only issue.
Yeah. I mean, play Damian Pierce.
No.
It's kind of gross, right?
No.
I mean, I think you can play Cooks because, like, right now we're playing with very low cumulative ownership. Like, if Cooks is the chalkiest piece of this lineup, I think you can eat that chalk. Let's leave it. Let's leave it there for now. Maybe we can.
I also hate playing Brandon Cooks, as you know.
Yeah, you've notoriously been a Brandon Cooks hater, but
it's just whenever he's chalk, he's gonna bust. He's just one of those players. I don't know, like. Whenever nobody's on him, that's when he's going to do good. And whenever he's chalk and everybody's playing him, he doesn't do shit.
I mean, the alternative is to just play a Texans tight end instead. But, like, it's kind of gross. Eating Cooks chalk, barf. I mean, the chat doesn't like it. Maybe we should get Cooks out of there.
I think that... if we're shooting for a milli maker,
yeah,
we might have to hit on a dart throw tight end.
Sure.
Especially since we're probably not going to be able to pay up to tight end.
Right.
Right. So do we play like a Pharaoh Brown or OJ Howard?
Yeah, let's just plug Pharaoh in for now. We would late swap this obviously if he gets ruled out. What is Khalil Herbert's ownership on DK? It's going to be 30 plus. He'll be right up there with Jamal in terms of incredibly high ownership.
So do you want to play Eckler in this lineup and because we have a lot of good options at wide receiver, or do you want to burn a wide receiver spot for this double?
I would either play this Palmer. I would either play this single or play it like single stack with Mike Williams or Josh Palmer. I mean, I personally don't think that J Herb, Mike Willen, and Eckler together is that good. Like, I would rather just play, Jonathan Taylor for a little bit more and get a ceiling that's not, I don't know. I guess the correlation isn't bad with Eckler, so I shouldn't say that, but I don't know. I think JT would have like more raw ceiling in this spot than Eckler.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's just like kind of just betting on the Chargers team overall, and Eckler still correlates with Herbert, obviously pass catching upside. So that's I think
the kind of play I would make in small field, because like if they go off, it doesn't need to be the nuts. Yeah. Like that could easily get it done. So I don't know. It's a field size thing to me.
What is Khalil Herbert's ownership on DraftKings? As it stands right now, he's going to be like 25+% in tournaments. In cash games, he's probably going to be 75.
Yep.
All right, so we could go. You know what? Let's just leave it like this. Or no, we need a double stack. We need a double stack, so we'll do Palmer. Even though I don't really love that, but you need a double stack and a bring back. I mean, this just looks ugly. Like, this just looks like a team that isn't going to win.
Yeah. It does. It does.
Maybe we should start over.
I mean, this is the right stack.
Pharaoh Brown, Josh Palmer, Mike Williams,
Pharaoh Brown ain't the right stack. It's definitely Cooks. Cooks is the only player on the Texans that has a ceiling that can get you there, I feel like, to be honest.
I just hate burning 3 wide receiver spots in one game.
Well, if we're not playing, I think we play Everett instead of Palmer in this build, right?
All right, yeah. Let's go back to that.
Yeah.
That does look better.
It looks better. It's more appealing.
Now, do you want to get up to JT in this lineup? We can. We can make it work.
I think we should.
All right. We go JT. We make it work. Thoughts on Craig Reynolds and GPP? I think it's just too thin overall, but I think he's going to probably get like 40% of snaps, 10 touches. But I think it's still too thin. I can't stomach that personally.
Agreed. All right.
So we got 4,300. Should we try and plug in a defense?
Yeah, let's plug a D in, see what we're looking at.
So we could do the Seahawks leverage. Just get leverage on Jamal, especially in the Millie Maker. Jamal, Josh Reynolds, TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good.
Makes a ton of sense, right?
Yep.
You save. Bob with the Shefty bomb. CMC likely to play.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
Herbert with Williams, Everett with JT and AJ Brown make it work everywhere else. We could do that.
I mean, if we plugged
we're gonna need a cheap player.
Yeah.
So we could, if we want to focus on that, we could do. I mean, how disgusting do you want to get? We got to beat 237,000 people. So how disgusting should we get? It's like, do we get Kenny Golladay disgusting?
That's
the question.
See, if we're getting that gross, then why don't we just play Nico Collins instead of Brandon Cooks? You know what I mean?
That's actually not a bad play.
Like, if that's what we're gonna do, like, let's just play Nico Collins at 4K. We get up to AJ Brown as that other wide receiver in this lineup. We both love AJ Brown. Like, is that like a wave? I don't know. He had 9 targets in week 2.
Yeah, no, I don't mind Nico. Let's see what else.
Fun fact. I have a fun Nico Collins fact.
Who's Perry?
I'm assuming he meant Penny.
Penny?
No?
Rashad Penny? I'd be down to play Rashad Penny in this lineup.
Oh, yeah. You could plug Penny in.
With the correlated Seahawks D.
Yeah. So, fun fact about Nico Collins, he has 1 career touchdown. Do you want to know what team he scored it against?
What team?
Los Angeles Chargers last season.
All right, he's locked. This is our GPP process.
Can we fit AJ? Like, what does AJ Brown give us if we did that?
Not much to work with. That puts us in the Mac Hollins range.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not playing a running back that cheap. So 4,400 would put us. Let's Holbert, Marvin Jones as a correlation, or Zay Jones. Obviously, I think against the Eagles, you attack the middle. So I'm not too high on Marvin Jones, but I mean, this is definitely something worth monitoring, though. Zay Jones questionable.
It is. Hang on, my brain just entered galaxy mode.
We don't have to play AJ Brown though. That's the thing.
Well, wait. Well, hang on. Plug AJ Brown back in because I just had my galaxy brain just finished its thought. All right, we take Everett out, okay, and we plug in Evan Ingram. Going back to your theory that the middle of the field is where we attack, right? So we plug Evan Ingram in, and what does that leave us? It leaves us our easy replacement for the Chargers double stack as we take Everett out. It gives us Josh Palmer. That's fucking max correlation, bro. We have the Justin Herbert double. We have the AJ Brown at low ownership with an Evan Ingram bring back. We're punting off tight end. Who gives a shit about Evan Ingram? We got the Seahawks Penny correlation. Jonathan Taylor is the GOAT one-off play. You're telling me this shit isn't winning a milli?
It's probably not winning a milli. I'm gonna screenshot this. This isn't assigning a lineup to the Millie Maker. This is assigning a lineup to a cash game. So I'm gonna screenshot this and save it. Okay. So because I might actually play this lineup.
I like that lineup.
You guys like Lockett this week? He's a speedster. I like Lockett, but he is chalky.
Yeah. Metcalf's better in tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, process-wise, that shit is solid as hell.
Yeah, because if Justin Herbert's hitting his ceiling, he's bringing multiple pass catchers along. So we're just kind of hoping that those touchdowns and catches go to Mike Will and Palmer. right? And if we're expecting the Texans to be able to push them a little bit, Nico and Cooks are probably the guys there. Um, Seahawks D, as Bob mentioned, best leverage D on the slate against all of the Lions chalk, especially in a large field tournament. Rashad Penny, okay, as correlation with the Seahawks
Mm-hmm.
D. If the Seahawks get up and are controlling the game, Rashad Penny's probably a big part of that. You got the AJ Brown one off, not one off. You got the AJ Brown Evan Ingram correlation. I mean, Evan Ingram. The only bad thing about Evan Ingram is he's horrible at football.
Yeah, dog shit.
But if we just go based on the way the Eagles play defenses, they kind of just funnel everything to the middle of the field. They don't necessarily focus on like having the best like I don't know how to explain it, but tight ends you usually do relatively well against the Eagles. And we still get exposure to a high upside quarterback, right? At low ownership, and then we get exposure to probably the best running back play on the entire slate, even at 8,800. I think this is a smash spot for Jonathan Taylor. So that's kind of the process behind this lineup.
I mean, I think it makes sense ownership wise, cumulatively. It's more than low enough to win a milli maker. I mean, Zach makes a good point that it's probably winning $30. Yeah, I mean, this shit's either
Probably not even
cashing or
cashing.
not cashing, but maybe it wins a milli. I don't know. I might run this. You know what? Fuck it. I am gonna run this.
If this won a million, we built a milli maker lineup winning lineup on stream, like we're goated.
Yeah,
Because that
that's
ain't never
facts.
been done before. Will
No.
it happen? No. But if the 0.000000283% chance it hits,
Yeah,
put some respect on our names.
that's facts. That's facts, man. And I think this might be the longest stream we've ever done.
Oh, it's
We might be
definitely
setting new
not.
records. No,
It's definitely not.
no, we done some 2 hours.
We had like an hour 45 like 2 weeks ago.
Oh shit. On my cut. Yeah, I mean, honestly, we could like if just like the 25 of us watching this right now all ran this, it'd still be a pretty big come up. Still be a pretty big come up. But
Yeah, but I do not want to split $1 million with 24 of my closest friends. As
that's
selfish
fair.
as that sounds.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't think anybody runs that though. So
I'm gonna run it. I'm playing this lineup in a tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe not the milli maker because I think you kind of have to get more off the wall. But this is
more off the wall than that.
That's a good tournament lineup. Well, it's just like if you're following, the trends that we've been talking about, it doesn't really follow the trends.
Fair. It's fair. But every week is its own week, man.
Or actually, no, it kind of does. If you add up Taylor and Penny, you get like what 13.7. So divide that by 2. That's like averages out to like 6K something. You guys gonna do basketball content? I'm a hooper.
I mean, the only content we would do is like we could film like a 1v1 of me and Joey and me absolutely, scraping him, busting him off the court. Like we could do that as basketball content, but like at NBA DFS, not so much.
I mean, first of all, you're just not beating me in a one-on-one in real life hooping. So we already know that. we already know how that plays out.
I don't think we know anything.
We already know how that plays out. Bop might be the only person watching that could beat me one-on-one.
Think so? Well, I mean, he is a hooper. He did just say that.
He's a hooper.
Yeah, I mean, he could warm up with you and then graduate to the big dog.
Yeah, graduate to fucking Sean
Marion. I got the wettest fucking shot you ever seen, dog.
He got the Sean Marion shot. He got the
it ain't even like that is.
No.
It's cap.
He got the fucking Devin said that's a really good lineup, honestly.
Thank you.
I cleared it, so I can't even pull it back up. But yeah, I think it's a pretty solid tournament lineup. And yeah, that's usually just the process of how I personally build tournament lineups. And hopefully I can bing something soon. Hasn't worked.
I mean, process-wise, it's OD solid. Mr. Torian says he's going to drop 81 on y'all and yell Kobe.
Probably. We're not good. We're not good.
Yeah, we're not. We aren't.
Yeah, like, no. Could hit a couple threes here and there, but
anything else, man? Anything else that we need to hit on here?
No, I mean, if anybody has any other questions, LOL, he got the yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he's got the Sean Marion.
I've been hearing that for years now. I don't even know who that is.
It goes in sometimes, though.
Sometimes. That shit's going in at an 80% clip.
You guys like Duvernay this week? I don't.
I think he's fine. I mean, he's good, price leverage off of Hollins and Richie James. So, you're getting a way better game environment. I think that you could definitely play Duvernay in game stacks of that Buffalo-Baltimore game with either quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's it. I mean, shout out to everybody still watching, 20 plus viewers. That's pretty good. And if you're somehow watching this on replay still, I mean, goddamn, hour 36 in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. I know some of y'all watching right now, out of the 20 plus viewers we have, are not subscribed.
That's crazy.
Make sure you subscribe. I know for a fact. So make sure you subscribe to the channel.
That's facts.
Yep.
Oh, my bad. Go
ahead. You could also plug in Josh Reynolds with St. Brown. Yeah, we were building kind of a Millie Maker lineup, and in just those large field tournaments in general, I'm fading Chalk. And Chalk is just the highest owned players. And Josh Reynolds is going to be one of the highest owned wide receivers. And that lineup is kind of just a bet against the Lions chalk guys with the Seahawks defense and Rashad Penny. So that's kind of the reasoning why we didn't play Josh Reynolds in that lineup.
Yeah, if you're playing something like a cash game, a head-to-head or a 50-50, Reynolds is a really good play this week.
Hit on Devontae Parker last week. Will he do it 2 in a row? I mean, maybe. Jacoby Myers is out. So
Aguilar season? I know you were a little bit in on Aguilar last week.
Yeah, I did play Aguilar last week, and that was pretty disappointing because it all went to Devontae Parker, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, he's cheap still.
Yeah,
I don't hate it, to be honest. Like, the Patriots are going to be down in this game. It's just how much of a downgrade is Brian Hoyer to Mac, or how much of a downgrade is Brian Hoyer from Mac Jones is really the question.
The same amount of upgrade that Baker Mayfield was to Sam Darnold.
So minimal.
All
right, Devontae Parker's in play then.
Yeah, Devontae Parker. It's a good thing for Parker. It's a bad thing for Joey's sustained fandom of the Patriots over the next 5 years.
Yeah, Mac hasn't played well to start this year at all. So
yeah, I wonder who could have predicted the Patriots offense was going to see some pain to start this year with the major scheme overhaul. Who called
Honestly,
that?
I don't think it's been scheme. I think he's just fucking played bad and made stupid decisions.
You think so?
I think you can't blame the coaches for him throwing fucking jump balls 24/7 to Devontae Parker and them getting picked off every time.
Yeah, no, you're right. And maybe it's a decision-making thing.
Yeah, but all right, I think we'll go to 1 hour 40, so we got 40 seconds. Any last comments, questions, concerns, advice?
Least passing yards, Fields or Hoyer? Fields.
Bailey Zapp season incoming.
Bailey Zapps. Yeah.
Bailey Zapp. That's when you know it's time to end the stream, when I bring up Bailey Zapp, the Patriots quarterback 3.
Yeah, that's definitely time to chalk this stream. So shout out to everybody who watched. If you're still watching, appreciate you guys. Hopefully you got some good actionable information. Feel like we have a really good grasp on this slate. So hope you guys have a great Sunday. Make some money. That's my plan.
Cash.
Yep. Let's cash. Yep.
Zach's been smashing. Shout out to Zach.
Yeah, he has been. just one of the many sharp members in our Discord channel. If you guys have not yet joined, our Discord channel is free. You can find the link to join it in the link to this video. A lot of sharp minds, a lot of tournament winners in there, always talking DFS, talking the best bets of the week. And that's going to be it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week. Multiple podcasts, another live stream. And until then, let's have a great week 4, man.